Welcome back to the Sports Complex on a Wednesday afternoon. We're going to talk some more Texas OU. We'll talk a little bit of Texas OU. We'll start to get into the bye week for Texas. No game this week, but you got some things to work on. What Texas needs to start working on this week, what they need to improve upon, who they need to get back into positions they need to be in, and the mentality going forward this week. Where your brain needs to be. We'll play some more audio from Sark with that. We'll be talking a little NBA. There was the first ejection of the year last night. We'll talk a little bit about that. We will play some sound from Hook 'em Up. Talk some NFL starting quarterbacks that are struggling, the best backup quarterbacks in the NFL. Kind of get a viewpoint for everybody. We know we talk a lot about quarterbacks and about how, quarterbacks are, I don't know if the quarterback should be a starter or shouldn't be a starter in the NFL. I just want to give a ground level of where the NFL is at quarterback-wise, so we understand when we ask for things in the quarterback market, what we're actually looking for and what's actually available out there. And then we can make decisions from there. That's how I like to think about things. But remember, the show is driven by you guys, and we just try to keep it on the rails. 512-447-3776 is the text line. 512-447-3776 is the text line. And Chief Engineer, I know, enough with OU. We're not going to talk a ton about OU. We can talk about things that happen in the game. We're not going to break down the game anymore because we all know. We know what happened. We know. So we're going to talk more about the bye week. We're going to get more into that. But yeah, anything you guys want to talk about on the show today? We have a full show today because the Rangers did advance to the ALCS. They took care of business last night. It was not much of a game. The Rangers just dominating so far in the postseason. They go on to sweep the Orioles. They will be playing on Sunday is game one of that ALCS at 6 o'clock. It was supposed to be a day game. They moved it back because of no Rangers game. Astros versus Twins in game 4. And if the Astros win tonight, they advance on and will play the Rangers, and we get that ALCS matchup. That'll be tons and tons of fun. So we'll update you with the Astros as the show goes on there as well. But a full show today for the Sports Complex. Let's get into some Texas football, though. And I want to play this audio about Sark talking about the bye week, getting us ready for kind of what you have to do. This is kind of a slow week for Texas. So it's a little bit hard to talk about a lot of stuff because there is stuff they need to work on. But this is also knowing Sark's MO. He's not necessarily a guy who necessarily is going to go in and change up a lot after a loss. It's going to be more of, hey, if we stick to what we do, we should be able to win these next 6 games pretty easily. You should be able to handle it. And I think it's going to be kind of the right mindset for what you're doing for these next 6 games. We need to play at our level. Don't play down to the level of any of these teams. Do not let yourself play down. Don't let yourself fall down to the level of how you played against OU on the lines. And step back up and go show that you're the dominant team. Go handle your business. And, you do not control if you make it the Big 12 championship anymore. However, you can set the precedent that you are a top 5 team again. And you need to get back to that. Here's Sark talking about the bye week.
All right, we'll fix the things that need to get fixed as a coaching staff and as a team this week during the bye week, and we'll play good football the second half of the season. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to watching our coaches and our leadership really step up this week, and then as we head into the second half of the season, obviously bye week. One thing that's going to be big for us this week is getting healthy. We are a little bit banged up as a football team, which is understandable. I think everybody is at this point in the season. So, we understand that, but it would be nice to get a little bit more healthy than we are right now. We've got some issues to address collectively and individually. I think we need to create more turnovers from the defensive perspective. We're not causing enough fumbles right now. We want to improve upon that. We definitely want to improve our red zone offense. We've already started working on that as a staff. I think our 2-minute defense needs to be better. So we're diving into that. And I think we need to get more out of our return game, whether it's punt return, kick return. We got too many good athletes right now to not be getting more out of that aspect of the game. So for all that to happen, all of the players need to be coachable. They need to understand why we're trying to get them better and to put forth the right effort to make that happen. So I think the overriding message is, hey, everything we want out of the season is still right in front of us right now. We got to go handle our business. And the first order of business is having a really good bye week. Like I said, getting healthy, addressing the issues that need to be addressed. And, it's a simple adage that I talked to the team about today, but I think this week is important of any is, learn from yesterday, focus on today, prepare for tomorrow. So we got to learn from the loss Saturday, and there's plenty to take from that game to learn from. We got to focus on this week on the things that we need to do, and that'll help prepare us for the second half of the season that I think we'll go out and play good football and see where it all lays out at the end.
And that's kind of the focus, because focus is what we've talked about all season of what a real championship team. It's one of the key factors is you got to be able to focus, play with intent, do what you need to do. And one of the things for Texas this season that looked really great leading up to Oklahoma was that the focus and the buy-in for what this team really believed in what the coaching staff was putting forward, the players that were on the field, everything seemed to be working in the ways it needed to work. And there was a couple little struggles after the Alabama game. You went a little bit, Wyoming, you weren't able to come out and pull away until later in the game. In Kansas, you were able to get it, it was a little closer than you would have wanted to be for a little bit. But, both those games, you pull away and you win handily. So you get the buy-in, everybody's bought in. Now, after a game, when you're hearing it from the press, when you don't have that ability to just go back out there and hit somebody and go set the tone right with that bye week after a loss, you have to be able to get the buy-in back to where it needs to be. So there is a period during the bye week. Hey, man, go get healthy. Take a little bit of time for you to just kind of let it all out. Let it all out and go out on the practice field and just run and go, do what you got to do on that practice field for a few days so we can get to basically today, Thursday, where you start to go back into, okay, now we're back into the buy-in. Now we're back into starting to get down to the drills and all the little things that other teams don't get to work on as much because they have massive gaping holes in their game plan that they're having to figure out. So we can work on a little bit of smaller things. And I think that's kind of what this week will end up being for Sark is this week is more of, hey, let's kind of shore up and fix up the smaller things. He's talked in press conferences about his practices, and he's talked about how in his practices he doesn't like to necessarily just focus on the things that you need to fix. He likes to rebuild and build and build on the positives and then work in the things you need to fix, which if this is 2 years ago, that's not a great game plan because you have a lot of things you need to fix and you really need to fix those. But if you are in year 3 and you're starting to look better, and some of the things you have to fix literally can't be fixed other than on game day, of getting the team up there and playing with more physicality and willing to play through pain and all that, which I know this team can do. I don't ever want to sound like I'm, talking down on these players. They had a bad game. It happens to everybody. But you need to be able to get them right in the right spot again, right? So that is what a lot of this bye week comes down to is, are you able to get the team to kind of work on the things that they are good at again, to get that buy-in back up? And can you run the drills where you're able to get the pass patterns that you're able to kill and get the offense some wins and then get the defense some wins in this week and get everybody to feel like you felt 2-3 weeks ago. Get them to feel like you felt at the beginning of the season of, okay, the world is in front of us now. We have to go take it. That's kind of what Texas needs to work on this week is getting back to the buy-in that was there before, because for a guy like Keelan Robinson, he was a guy I mentioned after the Alabama game. When you saw him after the Alabama game going over to recruits and really selling the program and selling Sark in a season where, you would have thought he would have wanted to be more involved this season. Bijan and Roschon are gone. You think, oh, man, this is going to be his season to step up more. We saw in the bowl game he carried the ball more, and then he wasn't as much a part of the offense. He's still doing special teams, but he's not as big a part of the offense. He's still buying in. You get to the Oklahoma game, he trying to show out on special teams, make some mistakes coming out of special teams, bringing the ball out of the end zone, going after and getting the penalty, going after the punt. He makes those mistakes. So now when you say, okay, we may not even be using you at all really in the offensive game, I don't know if they're ever going to really start working back into it. That may not be a major factor for him. And now the special teams game isn't there. How do you get his mentality and a veteran leader on this team to be fully bought back into the program? Those are the things that you've had to work on this week so far. Those are the things you have to continue to keep working on if you're Texas. And getting healthy and getting guys back, but just getting that the feel of this team to be back to where you can sell when you go and play next week again, when you go back and hit the gridiron once again, that you're playing as we should believe we are a top 5 team in this country. I know we're still ranked in the top 10, which is great to see that there's enough respect that that game did not knock us all the way down. But you believe, hey, we're a top 5 team. We're a top 4 team. We are a college football playoff team. We should be in it. Let's go prove that we're in it. We can kind of now step back from being the front runner guys, because clearly it's a lot harder to be the front runner than an underdog. So that's where you want to go. If you were Texas, you want to be able to build that. Here's Sark when he started talking about what the bye week schedule is. You guys don't know what he works on. This is Sark, what he is telling you where Texas is kind of getting everybody healthy.
Yeah, so we'll today we did more of a kind of recap of the game, recap of where we're at as a team, what do we need to do moving forward so that everybody's on the same page, and then they did a pretty extensive lift and stretch and stride to kind of get their bodies back. We'll practice Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We'll place a real premium on our 2s and 3s to make sure that they get the reps they need to keep kind of their football physicality to where it needs to be, but also with our 1s dealing and working on some of those issues that we talked about, right? Having a real sense of focus there. Then we'll go out recruiting Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and we'll come back as a staff on Sunday and get back in the office, and then Monday we'll be back on the field again.
So you kind of just rebuilding, getting the easy things done, getting ready for Monday, getting ready to be back out and playing again in a bye week. But you can also look at this as now an opportunity for Texas. That this is an opportunity for Texas and this coaching staff that hasn't been able to get these freshmen. And some of the freshmen, we know C.J. Baxter's been playing. He gets hurt. Jonathan Brooks takes over. I'll play you some more stuff about Jonathan Brooks later. Jonathan Brooks right now is not, if he's not the top running back in college football, he's top 3. So we can argue it if you want and go into where he's at, but he's a top 3 running back in college football right now, which I don't think anybody had at the beginning of the season, that Texas is going to have a top 3 running back this season. So that's amazing extra that Sark gets, that, this team and player development. We talk about player development and how it hasn't been here for Texas. Jonathan Brooks is a shining example of being able to play behind some NFL guys, get developed without even having time on the field, really, and see what he's able to do. So we have that, but we haven't got the freshmen a ton of playing time. C.J. Baxter's got some. Derek Williams has gotten a little bit more, especially with the injuries in the secondary. Manny Muhammad's gotten a little bit more with the plays in the secondary. But the wide receivers, which we really wanted to see, so we've talked about this, that Jay Witt and JT Sanders and Xavier Worthy and A.D. Mitchell, they're probably all gone next year. They're probably all those guys catching passes are probably all gone next year. They're all trying to go to the NFL. So if Texas can continue to go where they want to go, all those guys are probably gone. And you'd like to get some of these guys some reps in Big 12 play and get some reps before you head to the SEC and end up where, and I know Georgia's playing fine now, but when they lost some of their receivers and they didn't have the veteran parts at the receiver, that type of thing seemed to be problems for Georgia, especially early on, just trying to implement new guys in. Now, Kirby Smart's a great coach. They got a great culture there of winning, which I don't know if it's a great culture of personality or whatever else, but it's a great culture of winning. I can give them that much. And I won't say it's bad at anything else. I'm just saying there's stories that come out, and anytime you have a program that's that good, there's going to be a few things in it that may not be perfect, but at the same part, if you're winning games and it's not terrible, it's usually worth it. For sports fans, for people that play sports, it's usually worth it. But we will get back to what Texas playing the freshmen. And Sark kind of gave his evaluation of some of the freshmen and how he's excited to get some of them more playing on the field. And hopefully you're able to get ahead in some of these games and the next 6 games and get them starting to play a little bit more, getting them a little bit more time, get a Jonte Cook, get some other guys a little bit more time, the freshmen, because that is the next wave for Texas. And you want to be ready for that next wave, because guess what? We play Oklahoma again next year. And I know it's in the SEC, but we play them again next year. And after this, you want to beat them, you're going to need the freshmen to step up. Here's Sark talking about the Texas freshmen.
Yeah, I think all 3 of those guys are right there on the cusp of being really frontline guys for us. I think Derek, the last couple of games, last 3 games, he's had a lot of snaps, and they haven't all been perfect. But what I love about Derek, he's got a high football IQ. He cares. He wants to be a great player, and in my mind, he's going to be a great player for us. And so this experience that he's getting now is huge for our team in the second half of the season. I think Manny Muhammad getting a lot of reps as well. And it's for a lot of young guys, it's about consistency, right? You can't do 2 plays well and then 1 not. And so we're trying to fight the consistency. And then with Anthony, his ability to erase plays, right? Maybe he's not always right, but he's got the speed and physicality to make up for that, whether it's rushing the passer or when the quarterback scrambles, he can go run him down. And so that's been really effective. I think probably the guy I know offensively that I'm really excited about is Jonte. I was kicking myself. I probably should have played him more Saturday. I think that he's earned it. He's practiced well, and so hope to see more of him. And I think that he's probably the main one. DeAndre Moore's probably close right there too. So those 2 guys stand out to me. And then obviously I think the other guy, which we've seen a lot of, but I'd like to see him get back to being 100% healthy, is C.J. Baxter. So a lot of young guys, and then a lot of other guys that are developing. And we take a lot of pride in the development of our players. Even though they're redshirting, we still work with them a lot. And so there's a lot of the guys. I'd be remiss if I left some of them out. But there's a lot of these guys that are kind of on the come here that if we can just keep working with them, maybe it won't all pay out for them this year, but over the long haul and into next season, I think it will pay dividends for us.
And that's another thing during this bye week. You get to work with those freshman players and get them a little bit more time because they're not beat up, because they are healthy, because they're not playing. And you get to practice with them a little bit harder. Sark gets to spend a little bit more time. I know he's recruiting too. So, he may not be there, but the position coaches can spend a little bit more time with those freshmen and get you ready for that next level. One more clip I'll play before we go and take our first break, and we get to Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the Day on the text line that's open for you guys. 512-447-3776 is the text line. Sark kind of gave his mid-season player evaluation, position group evaluation. So if you can put on yours, if you feel you're on the same level as Sark on this, if you feel like he may be off on some of these, here's Sark kind of giving his position evaluation so far, basically halfway through the season.
Obviously, the running back position I'm very pleased with. I think Jonathan Brooks is one of the leaders in the country right now at running the ball, and I don't think that anybody really thought that would be the case, losing Bijan and Roschon coming off of last year. So I'm really impressed with those guys. I think the tight end position is one that has been an area of strength of ours. I think, with JT and how Gunner's played, I've been impressed with those guys. I think from a receiver standpoint, Xavier's been very consistent. I talked to him about that this morning. I've been really impressed with the level of consistency he's playing the game at right now and the efficiency. I talked to him. I said, a year ago, for you to catch 8 balls, I'd have to throw you 15 or 16. And this year, I think a week ago, we threw him 7 or 8 balls. He caught 7 or 8. Saturday, he caught 8 balls with 10 targets. So the efficiency in which he's playing and the rapport he and Quinn have has been great. But also, Jay Witt has his 100-yard game Saturday. The week ago, it was A.D. Mitchell with a 100-yard game. So the ball's moving there pretty well. I think from the defensive front, I think our run game defense I'm super impressed with. Again, this is another game. I think we held both runners at 3 yards or just under 3 yards per carry. But again, we got to clean up our pass rush lanes. The quarterback legs hurt us Saturday. At linebacker, the emergence of Anthony Hill, I think, is really starting to show up. And so hopefully that's something we can build on here in the second half of the season. And then at corner, playing a lot of guys, which has been good. Naturally, Ryan was having a good year. Anytime you have an injury, we want to make sure we get him back, but I want to make sure I get him back healthy. Because when you have a leg injury as a guy who has to run all day, that's not a good thing. And so we got to do everything in our power like we did last week and again this week to see how far we can get him to try to get him available to play against Houston.
getting everybody ready to play against Houston. There's a little midseason position group evaluation with Sark, if you agree with that or not. That's where he says he's at least coach speak in a press conference says that. You can let us know, 512-447-3776, if you agree with it or not. That's our text line. We appreciate everybody texting in and playing along. You know, you guys drive the show. I just try to keep it on the rails. That being said, let's get to the Big Fat Poll of the Day.
Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the Day on the Horn.
Big Fat Poll of the Day today. We're going to talk a little NFL because we're going to get to the NFL in the 6 o'clock hour. And we give you a little break. It's a bye week for Texas, so we're taking a little NFL poll questions. We get to Houston next week. Probably get back to a lot more Texas questions, but I like you guys talking some NFL. And this one, you know what? It has a little bit focused around the Cowboys because of that's the conversation around the Cowboys, but I don't feel it's necessarily needed to be in the Cowboys that much. I think there are some other teams we'll talk about who have not had quarterbacks that look good, some people that may be looking to get a new quarterback and how they're going to do that. We'll talk about that in the 6 o'clock hour. So here's a poll till we get to the 6 o'clock hour. Who's the best backup quarterback in the NFL right now? Who do you feel is a quarterback that if you could take one quarterback to be your starter, basically if you're a franchise, if you said, I got to win, I don't even want to say expansion franchise and get the youngest guy, because you can say you want this guy because he's young, but you can say I want this guy because he has the biggest upside, or I think this guy is the guy who's going to win this today. Who's the best quarterback? In your mind, whatever mode of operation you're getting to, who's the best quarterback, backup quarterback in the NFL today? 512-447-3776. 512-447-3776. Who's your vote for the best backup quarterback in the NFL? We'll get to more of those. I got a big list of them. I've got a list of backup quarterbacks and kind of tiered them out for you. I have some quarterbacks and some stats for you to maybe not make you feel so bad about Dak, maybe make you feel worse. We'll get to that and other quarterbacks that could be available, other quarterbacks that you could want to move. We'll get to all that. But before we do, we're going to take a break. So keep texting in. We'll get to some of your text. We're going to talk a little bit about the NBA and something that happened last night and another topic that we'll put up on the text line for you there. We'll play some sound from Hook 'em Up. And we'll talk, we'll read your text when we come back here on the Sports Complex on the Horn 1019 AM 1260, the Horn app, and at hornfm.com. Back on the Sports Complex here on the Horn, playing some ACL Fest music artists for you all week long. That's our theme of the week. And we'll add that to the polls of the day. We'll add that as another. We're going to ask you a lot of questions today because we don't have a lot of Texas football to talk about. But I want to talk to you guys still. You guys are still the best listeners in the world. I appreciate you guys playing along with us every day. You guys drive the show. We just try to keep it on the rails. So we'll ask you that one too. Who's your favorite artist playing ACL Fest? Are you going? If you're going, who do you want to go see? I'm not a festival guy. I worked for a band when I was younger, and I got to be backstage at festivals. And even then, it's a lot of people. I don't like being around that many people in general for the most part, so I don't necessarily go out to a lot of festivals. I just had some buddies out at Power Trip. You saw what that was. It's like 6 bands on 3 days, and it was just all headliners, no opening bands, just 3 all like great rock headliners: AC/DC and Iron Maiden and Judas Priest and Tool and Metallica and Guns N' Roses, all on that. They had a blast, but it's too many people. Can't do Gen Pop anymore. Too spoiled. I don't know how I'm going to watch basketball games this year. I used to sit right next to Craig Way. Not going to be doing that this year. So I don't know. I'm going to have to find another way to watch all those basketball games. I'm used to sitting courtside. Now I just got that on not anymore. So, I got to figure it out. I'm a man, I'm not trying to be better than anybody. It's my own social anxiety. Don't worry. It is not me trying to be better than anybody. But tell me if you got a band. Maybe we'll play them. I'm just playing ACL Fest artists. So you got a great band I should check out at ACL Fest. I'm not going, but I should. I know they're streaming some of it online, or maybe they did week 1. We'll see. 512-447-3776. We're also asking you who is the best backup quarterback in the NFL. We're going to ask you about that. And then I do want to mention before we play this clip from Hook 'em Up that something happened in NBA preseason. NBA preseason is pretty uneventful. We had the first game with Wembanyama on Monday night, and Wembanyama looked really good at points. It's still going to be a learning curve. Offensively, he looks really good. He had a great block in that game too. He's just got to fix, all those other pieces of the game, but that'll come with time. He also had the press conference where he came out and he said, "Has Pop yelled at you yet?" And in that game, you saw Pop lay into some people when they weren't playing any defense. It's good to see Pop get mad again. It's good to see him get mad again. Chet Holmgren looked really good in that game. But the Rockets played a game last night. Also, if you want to watch the Spurs' next game, it's on TNT on Friday, I believe. TNT on Friday against the Miami Heat will be the next game if you want to check out Victor Wembanyama. But the Rockets had their first preseason game. New lineup, new coach, some new players out there. They put out Van Vliet was out there. Jabari Smith had a decent game. And one of your new additions, Dylan Brooks, came out. And in the game, in the first 5 minutes of this game, he comes around a screen and hits Theis right in the groin. And it's one of those moves that you can claim is a bad, like you can claim your arm was just flailing out, but no one believes that someone who's playing basketball at that level has, maybe a center has that bad of body control, but guards don't have that bad of body control. You're going to try and swim around a guy and get your arm in so you can get around him and get around the screen. You don't necessarily want to put your arm out and grab him. He hits him right in the nether regions, puts him on the ground, comes around it like no big deal. This is 5 minutes into his first preseason game as a Rocket, by the way. They review the play afterwards. They deem that it was intentional and aggressive. So he is thrown out of the game 5 minutes in, Dylan Brooks. His Rockets preseason debut, he is thrown out for being a dirty player once again. I think it was just because he got some goodwill for how well he played again for Canada and FIBA, and he just want to throw all that out the window. He wants to be a hated player, which I can't. I get that I'm buying into the thing, but I just don't understand the people that are just like, oh, no, I'm not good enough to be a regular person. I don't want to be a member of society like everybody else says. I got to be a rebel. And he's a millionaire for it, so it's clearly working. But he is now entering the territory with this new contract of there's different tiers of kind of hated players, right, in the NBA. And you have the guys that are the cheap players, that people say, like a Pat Beverly, a Draymond Green, Grayson Allen, hated players. You have those guys that are dirty. He falls into that category. Then there's another category of hated players, which like the James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Chris Paul, guys who are just really good, but, never quite win it all. And people just can't stand them because They keep saying they want to win and they're competitive, but they never quite get it done. So they don't get that respect. Kevin Durant is in there and he's won, but people blame him because he went to the Warriors. That the argument that I don't care for, but that one. And then there's like the Ben Simmons, the guys who are just overpaid. There's 3 levels. So there's overpaid, there's dirty, and then there's really good of players that are hated, right? Dylan Brooks falls into 2, and the one that he wants to fall into, he's not, because he's not the really good player. He is currently, people feel he's overpaid and he's dirty. And he may go down as one of the more hated players if he plays through this entire contract in the Rockets. If he continues to play as dirty as he is playing and trying to work on things in the preseason, working on cheap shots on guys in the preseason, when you should be trying not to hurt players, he goes out and tries to take a cheap shot in the preseason. It's terrible. I hate seeing it because I know it's all part of his shtick, and he's just using the rest of the league to do it. But I want to ask you that on the text line, too. We'll ask you that on the text line, too. 512-447-3776. Who is your most hated NBA player? And you can go all-time, and you can go right now. 512-447-3776. Who's your most hated NBA player? If you're going to give me a reason, that would be great, too, because we're going to get those texts in a minute. 512-447-3776. Plenty of things to text in about. Who are you going to see at ACL Fest? Who do you like at ACL Fest? Who's the best backup quarterback in the NFL? And who is your most hated player in the NBA? Maybe all time, maybe right now. Send in that reason too. Plenty of stuff. 512-447-3776. Plenty of stuff to talk about today. It's a Wednesday. Just going to have some fun on this show today. I do want to talk about somebody who's having fun. Jonathan Brooks, as we said earlier, one of the top 3 quarterbacks, or top 3 running backs in college football right now. He could be the best one. He could be. I'm trying to be nice because I'm a homer, because I cover Texas, that I feel he's the best running back in college football right now. I'll say top 3. The stats. He's top 5 in basically every stat in running the ball. So I'm saying he's top 3 to be nice. He could be the best. Hook 'em Up was talking about Jonathan Brooks and his rise this season. Here's Rob Babers and Aaron Hogan this morning talking about Jonathan Brooks.
All right, let's talk about Jonathan Brooks, guys, because we don't talk enough about him, truth be told. Don't give him enough props because he has been unbelievable so far this season. And I'll give you some of the stats. First of all, Jonathan Brooks is 2nd in college football and 1st in the Power 5 in total rushing yards. So that alone is a surprise. He is easily the most unexpected storyline of the 2023 season for Texas football. Easily. I don't even think it's even close. He has 108 carries. He has 726 rushing yards. He actually leads the Power 5. He has 6 rushing touchdowns, 7 total. And as E mentioned, dropped a touchdown reception or 2. So could have even more touchdowns. 847 total yards. That leads the conference. 37 missed tackles forced. That leads the Power 5 running backs. And 460 yards after initial contact. That is 2nd in the Power 5. He also is 2nd in college football. 1st in the Power 5 in rushing yards per game. And he has the highest yards per carry with any of the heavy usage backs around the country, which are running backs with at least 100 carries, 100 attempts. So at 6.72 yards per carry. There is one texter says, what was the average weight of those 12 times? Come on, that doesn't matter. What are you talking about? Come on. Hey, what's up? What you talking about? What does it matter?
I said
he ain't BK.
I said 8 out of 12.
BK was the one that preferred the larger ladies.
Heifers.
Yeah. By the way, nothing wrong with that. I know I'm a Lane Bryant lover and a plus size pleaser. I've been one of those. But anyway, getting back to it, I was thinking that Jonathan Brooks has right now solidified himself as a mid-season point now, a Doak Walker Award potential finalist. I think he's in that conversation. I would have never thought that. Not that I doubted the man's skill. The man, I think everybody had faith that Jonathan Brooks was very skilled and could play on Sundays one day. I just didn't know that he would ascend so quickly. Guys, he didn't start the first 2 games of the season. Yeah. That was Cedric Baxter started first. He was the first freshman to start at running back for Texas since Ricky Williams. So everybody thought Cedric Baxter must be the guy. Cedric Baxter. And really, I would say football logic, traditional football logic tells you if a younger player is close to a veteran player in the competition, to go with the younger player because their rate of development will probably surpass the veteran player because they shouldn't be close. So they'll probably surpass them sooner rather than later. And I guess the assumption probably was that with C.J. Baxter over Jonathan Brooks. But C.J. Baxter can't really stay healthy, can't finish a game. That's a big part of it, being a younger player, absorbing the physicality of the game. And Jonathan Brooks used that opportunity to take that job. It wasn't his job. They had given it to Cedric Baxter. Now that's Jonathan Brooks' job. And not only is he doing the job, but he's doing it as well as any running back in the country right now.
Yeah, in addition to the 740 rushing yards this year, remember only 100 of those came in the first 2 games. He's really piled up most of those rushing yards in the last 4.
It's unbelievable.
He's average, right? He's at 860 total yards from scrimmage. I mean, he's got 120 yards receiving and a touchdown. I mean, he's at 150 yards a game from scrimmage.
It's amazing. I'm going to see where he gets that from scrimmage yards. Good point. I didn't look that up.
Yeah, because he's caught some screen passes and had some long plays there. He's just I agree with you. It is the most unpredictable. But it also gives me this, Rod. You use the first 6 games into your bye week or 5 games to kind of figure out who you are. Well, now you can come out of your bye week, Rod, knowing you have one of the best backs in the country behind it, which should be an improving and still, you're going to get Cole Hudson back on the offensive line healthy.
Yep.
You believe, which means he could play center or guard depending on, the health of Jake Majors. Your offensive line should be, so, this gives this is stuff to build on. And if you can fix the red zone issues, I think continue to cultivate that Savion Red package, Rod, that red cat.
I like
use
that
more down in the red zone because he's shown the ability to find that crease and get in the end zone or get to a first down. This is what gives Texas a very high ceiling because, yes, the loss on Saturday was, demoralizing, but at the same time it was revealing. These are things you got to fix. And if you fix them, I mean, you don't have a peer the rest of the way until you get to the Big 12 championship game. You should be rightfully double-digit favorites the rest of the way. And yes, and Jonathan Brooks can run his way to some major awards and first team All Big 12, first team All American kind of player.
Yeah, Jonathan Brooks right now, if you look at all-purpose yards, he is 8th in the country right now.
Oh.
He's 8th right now. Oh, look at how about this? Shout out to Texas State. Ismail, I'm sure I mispronounced his name. Mahdi.
Yeah,
Ismail Mahdi.
Ismail Mahdi, yeah.
Yeah, the running back. He's leading the country.
Yeah.
Shout out to Texas State, leading the country in all-purpose yards, 188 per game. And right now, Jay Brooks he's at 141 per game. And like you said, he wasn't a huge factor in the game plan in the first 2 games. He closed the Bama game. I think that was more because Cedric Baxter couldn't finish the Bama game. And then after that, he became more of a focal point of the offense. And now, and this is even more perplexing though, now that you have a top 10 rushing attack potentially in the country, still can't figure out the red zone.
I think they'll figure it out. That's going to be my prediction. They'll figure it out.
Can Cedric Baxter take a hit without limping off the field too?
Yeah,
he's got to learn.
I swear, he's like, oh,
he falls bad.
I think he's got to learn how to be a big time bit back. And that look, he's from
punishment.
high school. And let's also remember this. Jonathan Brooks has had 3 years in the Texas weight room to build that armor, to build that body, to be ready to handle the rigors of big-time college football. Cedric Baxter came from the state of Florida. He's still learning whether you're hurt or injured and how to play through some of that. But he's got the ability, but it takes a little bit of time. They're not all Adrian Peterson, Rod.
No,
they roll in, right?
Yeah, no,
they're not all Adrian Peterson.
It takes a little while. Even for Jonathan Brooks, I bet it took a little while for him too.
That's some good stuff there from Hook 'em Up with Ian Robbie, weekday morning 6 to 11 right here on the Horn. Jonathan Brooks, one of these shining examples of Tashard Choice and the Sark coaching staff on how they're building players, the weight room, all of that. For years, Texas did not look great in developing players, and you get 5 stars and 4 stars, and they would leave 5 stars and 4 stars, and the NFL would take them, and then they'd be good players. And you go, why couldn't you do that at Texas? And that's the coaching staff. So it is what it is. But it's great to see that those types of things are turning around at Texas, and we're seeing players like Jonathan Brooks step up and be a top college running back, which, I mean, after Bijan Roschon, you think, well, we're going to take a step down. And he kind of did because it's not Heisman cut talk, but at the same point, he could still be a Doak Walker Award winner. That's crazy. No one expected that. Text line's open, 512-447-3776. We're asking you a bunch of questions today. Who's the best backup quarterback in the NFL? Send that in. We're asking you who's the most hated player in NBA after Dylan Brooks got ejected 5 minutes into a preseason game. Who's the most hated NBA player for you all time this year or currently? You can send that in too. Asking you who's your favorite ACL Fest artist or whoever your favorite ACL Fest artist, if you're going or not. send that in too. We'll come back. We'll start reading some of your texts. 512-447-3776. We'll read some of your texts when we come back here on the Sports Complex in the Horn 1019 AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Back in the Sports Complex on a Wednesday afternoon. Getting close to the top of the hour, getting close to the start of the Astros versus Twins Game 4. They're showing some Yordan Alvarez on the TV. Will they pitch to Yordan today, or will they just walk him? He has been dominant so far in the playoffs. They also showed the Don Zimmer thing when Don Zimmerman attacked Pedro, or ran out, and that brawl apparently was 20 years ago today. So they showed that with all the David Ortiz and Derek Jeter and Alex Rodriguez, and watching three guys try not to laugh, even though that was a terrible thing when it happened. Fun to see. Playing some ACL Fest stars. We're asking you today, who's at ACL Fest, who's playing ACL Fest that you really want to see. It's in that text in. We're asking you who the best backup quarterback is in the NFL. We'll get to that at the 6 o'clock, and then in the next segment, we'll get to that. We're also asking about the most hated NBA players for you after Dylan Brooks got ejected 5 minutes into a preseason game last night. We'll get to the text line 512-447-3776. The Popcorn Man asks, what's your opinion on Brock Purdy? I can tell you with Brock Purdy, I think that coaching has a lot to do with it, finding your players, and then playing, coaching to their strengths. Brock is doing really well. Now, if you take away the weapons, I don't think Brock Purdy's the same guy. If you take away the offensive line, he's not the same guy. I don't know if he's one of those insert into any team and they're immediately better guys, but he is definitely a guy that fits into Kyle Shanahan's system. And if we look at that coaching tree of Kyle Shanahan, that Mike Shanahan coaching tree, and those guys that were all kind of all together, and you look at what Mike McDaniel is doing with Tua right now, and Matt LaFleur won 2 MVP. Aaron Rodgers won 2 MVPs playing under Matt LaFleur, and Jordan Love, he's got showing up half of the weeks he's playing. The other half's not so much, but that Matt LaFleur was in that group, and now we see with C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud's looking good. And C.J. Stroud, Bobby Slowick came over from the 49ers. And if you want to ask Brock Purdy, I think if you put C.J. Stroud in that offense, it could be dynamic because he even has some more gifts and talents, but he has also been a very smart and judicious player in the NFL so far for C.J. Stroud. But I think Brock Purdy's doing exactly what he needs to do, but he has a coach who makes it easier, and he has a coach that went into it saying, how can I make this work for this quarterback, and not how can this quarterback make my system work? And we saw Mike McCarthy used Aaron Rodgers to make his system work. Matt LaFleur formed his system to make Aaron Rodgers work, had run the ball more, which allowed, Aaron Rodgers to thrive and win 2 MVP awards. Mike McCarthy wins the Super Bowl. I'll give Mike McCarthy won the Super Bowl there. But there's 2 thoughts of coaching in this. And one is I'm right. And the other is, well, it doesn't matter if I'm right. If the quarterback can't do what I'm asking him to do, it doesn't matter. I have to do what's best for the quarterback. And those guys seem to be thriving a little bit more right now. Brian Daboll is that guy, and he had 1 year of success with Daniel Jones, and then it kind of went downhill this season as more teams are figuring out, is Daniel Jones, I don't know what he did during the offseason, but he doesn't look like he has that fire. Maybe that money meant that he didn't work as hard this offseason to prove everybody wrong, but he doesn't look like he's coming out with the confidence and ability that he was playing with last year under Daboll. But he made Josh Allen. Josh Allen is the prototypical guy of why everybody wants that huge arm, no experience quarterback that you can build, is because Brian Daboll, what he did with Josh Allen. So I think Brock Purdy, it's, you're not getting that, Superman player, but you're just getting the guy. All I need you to do is this. If you can do this and make the right decision, and you can take my eyes and put them into your head, and you see what I see. I'm designing the plays for you to win. And that's what he's doing, and you get Brock Purdy. I think he's doing great. I do think there's going to be a point where there's a breaking point somewhere in this season where he'll have a not great game. But I don't know if there's going to be a point where he falls off completely. But I think some defensive coordinators will start to figure it out, like how Lou Anarumo figured out Patrick Mahomes and changed Patrick Mahomes' game. And that's when Brock Purdy's going to have to adjust, and Kyle Shanahan's going to have to adjust, is when somebody actually starts to game plan for Brock Purdy like he's a guy who's in the MVP vote now. You have to start planning for him instead of just Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel and George Kittle, who might get fined for wearing the F Dallas shirt, and Brandon Ayuk, who, though you're planning for all those guys, not even taking Brock Purdy seriously, you're going to have to start planning for him. And when they start doing, I think they will. We get some more names. We'll get to those names. I'll tell you what, we'll do the NFL names at the top of the hour because I want to get into that. Chief Engineer as saying that the poll of the day should be who drinks more, Jim Irsay or or Jerry Jones. It's not even that they drink. They say dumb things sober. That's more the problem. That's more the problem. Three Scared Souls. Are they a band playing ACL Fest? I do not. I'll have to check them out. Jonathan Brooks not up for the Heisman. You're asking, Bo. I don't think he's right now in the race. You've already lost a game. I don't know if he's one of the front runners to win it because I think people still expect Quinn Ewers to be that guy. Now, once we get to the last couple of weeks, if he continues on this pace, he will be in the conversation, but it's normally a quarterback position now anyways, and I don't know if they're going to be able to get it off of a Caleb Williams or a Penix Jr. who's having a great season at Washington. I think a quarterback, there's not poor enough quarterback play this season that a running back's going to win it, but he may be able to go to New York. If he keeps playing like this, he may get a ticket to New York. We're going to take one more break before we get to the top of the hour, and then we're going to read more of your texts. We're going to get into the NFL discussion, more and more text, NFL discussion, asking you all the questions. Who's the best backup quarterback in the NFL? We'll start answering those and reading those texts in the 6 o'clock. We will get to who the most hated NBA players from you in the 6 o'clock, as well as if you have any more ACL Fest stars you want me to play here on the show the next couple of days. Send those in. 512-447-3776 is the text line. We'll hit our break. Be back in the 6 o'clock hour for hour 2 of the Sports Complex right here on the Horn, 1019 and 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Hour 2 here on the Sports Complex on the Horn. 512-447-3776. Text line is open. You guys drive the show. I just try to keep it on the rails. Going to talk some NFL quarterback play, the lower end of starting quarterbacks, the upper tier of backup quarterbacks. What's the difference? Where is Dak in all of this conversation? We'll get to that. We'll get to more of your texts, talking dirty NBA players, talking backup quarterbacks, talking ACL Fest artists, whatever you got in there. You want to talk some Texas football, you can ask those questions too. Whatever you got. Ask some good questions on there. Appreciate it. 512-447-3776. It's a Wednesday show. We're having some fun. Astros about to play ball. They're in Minnesota trying to get a Game 4 win to make it a Texas ALCS. That would be a blast. I'd enjoy watching that. I think it would be a lot of fun. Maybe I'll do a watch party. Maybe I'll show up somewhere. I don't know if the station will be there. Maybe I'll go out and watch a game if they play a game. Maybe we'll all go out and have a drink together and watch a game. What do you say, guys? We can watch. And I know we're the Rangers station. I may personally be an Astros fan. Most of the people that work in this office may be Astros fans. But Chief Engineer, you brought up a good point. They're doing the Creed thing now for the Rangers, and I get it. I know what the backstory of it is that they'd watched the old Thanksgiving halftime show they did in Dallas where Creed had it, and there's that weird guy with the ribbons who's flying around, and it's just so over the top and so ridiculous. And so now they've embraced Creed and the crowd singing it, and I hate it. I hate it. It's the first thing that makes me dislike the Rangers. I have no problem with the Rangers, had no problem with them all season long. But now the Creed thing is too far. You're revitalizing a band, and it's one of those things that's annoying because they're like, it's all a joke and it's all in fun. You're like, no, it's not. You like Creed. Just say, we're Creed fans. We like Creed, and that's why we want to do this, because we want to listen to Creed songs. And then I'll say, fine. But don't tell me it's all a joke. It's not a joke. You love singing with arms wide open. You love this. It's your karaoke song. It's terrible. It's terrible. Don't push any of that Creed crap out anymore. It was Scott Stapp. Just awful, fake Christian rock that they did it only to make money. Oh, it's just terrible stuff. There was an interview I saw recently with Scott Stapp where he was talking about the rest of the band being pretty upset when they figured out what the lyrics meant and that Scott Stapp was selling them as a Christian band. And they were like, dude, we wanted to get into this to be rock stars. So if that's the reason, go Astros. Knock out Creed. We don't want to hear Creed in the World Series. Nobody wants Creed in the World Series. Nobody. Scott Stapp doesn't want Creed in the World Series. Got to beat them Rangers. I don't have that much animosity. It's just terrible. Like, there's so many bands that you could pick that would have been more fun than Creed. But they had that. Unless you bring back the weird ribbon guy. That guy can fly around. Every time you hit home run, that dude who's now 20 years older can go fly around out in the outfield or whatever and do his weird ribbon things. I'm fine with that. Have weird ribbon guy, Rangers. Don't promote Creed. Promote weird ribbon guy from that halftime show. We all like him more anyway than the Creed. That rant's over. We'll move on to some backup quarterbacks. The reason I wanted to talk about quarterbacks today. It's a Wednesday. We know we don't have a lot. We'll start to get into the games this weekend and start to get into college football games that are still happening, the NFL games, as the Cowboys are getting ready for next week. I know they came out today and said everybody loses after you play the 49ers. They're saying, don't worry, that's not us. But, they've said that's not us enough times. What does Jerry Jones say?
When something tells you what it is, don't try to dream that it's something else.
Thanks, Jerry, for that solid advice right before you lied to our faces. All right. Let's go through the text line real quick, 512-447-3776, to get you some of these. What we asked was, who is the best backup quarterback? We'll start there. We'll go with give me Taylor Heineke as multiple game-winning drives and can put his team on his back. The unemployed Colt McCoy, I've seen that he was trying to take a little time for himself to heal up, and then also kind of the shock of how he was cut from the Cardinals. Did not expect that. Was not something that he saw coming. And I imagine it's a big process to see if he wants to come back. And, if the job's not right, you probably don't want to go in and try and learn the whole new playbook, meet the whole staff, and go through that entire process, see if you fit in there and all that. So maybe he doesn't come back. But Colt McCoy is. I like him. He is a guy who's up there. I didn't put him on my list because he's not currently in the NFL, but I do agree with you. Colt McCoy is in one of the tiers that I will mention because I'm going to talk about him about tiers. We get it. Okay, Dak is saying the best backup quarterbacks. No, Dak would be by far the best backup quarterback. By a long margin, Dak would be the best backup quarterback. We get Jello Cat says Gardner Minshew for reasons on and off the field. Everybody loves him. Technically, he's a starter now. He is going to get his. So this is going to be the Gardner Minshew experiment that Anthony Richardson's been winning with Indianapolis, that this team's shown they can win. Jonathan Taylor is back there. If Gardner Minshew is able to come out and win some, I think he can get another shot. He can get another shot on another team. Maybe someone will try and give him, a run, or someone may try to trade for him by the end of October, and the Colts will go ahead and take the pick and run with Anthony Richardson for the rest of the year. That might be something. Jared Goff is not a backup quarterback. He is a starting quarterback. Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey, those are not backups either. I like some of these answers. So basically, you can keep texting in. Who's the best backup quarterback in the NFL for you? 512-447-3776. I've kind of tiered these out for your backup quarterback. So if you're looking to see who's might be available as a quarterback option, if your team, and I don't think the Cowboys are looking, because one of their quarterbacks is in here, and it ain't Cooper Rush. But if you're looking for the solid veteran backup, that's where Colt McCoy would fall into. Andy Dalton is there. I think Andy Dalton's on that list of a pretty good backup quarterback. Tyrod Taylor, we haven't seen him play much. He's been injured too much. And then Teddy Bridgewater, I know he's 30. He's one of the younger solid veteran backups. But we know he's not able to stay on the field for a full season. But he's a solid veteran. So if you're going for the solid veteran backups, Teddy Bridgewater falls on that list of a pretty good a quarterback for you. Quarterbacks that fall in the tier, I'm going to put them in as one more shot quarterbacks. Quarterbacks that you may sign and you feel, hey, we're going to get this guy on a discount. Kind of that Geno Smith category, right? A quarterback you can get who you feel is not going to be the guy for a long time, but he may be that stopgap. He may be able to give you a couple years in between. If you're trying to, let's say if you're at Dallas, you may be looking for a guy like this. If you decide you're not signing Dak to a contract extension and you want to get out, and by the way, if you don't re-sign Dak next season, about $61 million in dead cap that year, $35 million the year after. That's already on his contract. That's what you're paying. So you can't get another quarterback until at closest 2 years, 2025, but really 2026 is when you could pay another quarterback a high level. So you would either have to draft a rookie and try and go through growing pains of a rookie with not a top draft pick, or you have to take one of these guys as kind of a stopgap and that one more shot guy, right? And that's where you get a Jacoby Brissett. You give him one more shot. Jameis Winston, 29 years old. I know we think of him as older. He feels like he's been in the league for a long time. Jameis Winston, 29 years old, over with the Saints. Taylor Heineke is an older guy, 30 years old. Do you give Taylor Heineke? Mention him on one of our texters. He's 30 years old at the Falcons. And then Sam Darnold, who they're not giving up for. They trade away their other guy, but Sam Darnold's only 26. Do you give him one more shot? The Jets didn't work. The Panthers didn't work. If he doesn't play for the 49ers, does someone try and go out and get him for one more shot? Call this next category kick the tires. Because these guys, they're not bad, but we don't know if they're full season starters. And this is where I put Gardner Minshew, is in the kick the tires category. Gardner Minshew, is Gardner Minshew a guy for you that you feel can win you 12 games in a season? Is he a 12-win quarterback, which is what you want? Dak Prescott is a 12-win quarterback. He has proven that he's a 12-win quarterback. We know Dak Prescott is a 12-win quarterback. Is Gardner Minshew? Another name I'll throw into the kick the tires one, 26 years old. Gardner Minshew's 27. Drew Lock. Drew Lock, we now know how bad it was in Denver and how awful that culture had gotten in Denver after Peyton Manning. And, as much as you can put it on to Drew Lock that he did not play great, we saw the difference. We've seen that he maybe at 26, do you kick the tires and say, hey, man, let's give this guy, a smaller contract and see what he can do. Let's see what Drew Lock can do on our team. Is that we kick the tires on Drew Lock? Maybe get him a contract. And then we get into the last category. And one of these guys is a Pro Bowler, by the way. But I don't think anybody thinks his ceiling is as high. These are guys that, if you're going to take them, the ceiling is high on all of them. The ceiling is really high. The floor is in the basement. And the floor is, man, this guy's not a starter, and we shouldn't have put him in there as a starter. And he only runs one system, and we can't use that. And that's the anything is possible category. Anything is possible. These are the guys that you get on your team, and anything is possible. We may have just got a diamond in the rough. Tyler Huntley leads off that category. 25 years old, was in the Pro Bowl last year filling in for Lamar Jackson. Now, they're never going to get rid of him because they need him as a backup, but he may decide at some point, I'm a Pro Bowler. I'd like to go try and get my own starting job somewhere. So is he somebody that you can, through connections, get him to, be available, and you're able to go get Tyler Huntley? Then some rookies. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Clayton Tune. So Dorian Thompson-Robinson out of the Brown had some good preseason games, some not so good. Clayton Tune with the Cardinals. Now that Josh Dobbs is the guy over in Arizona, it doesn't look like he's going to be giving up that place this season. You have Kyler Murray coming back, and that's another one we can get into. He is technically the starter there. He is technically a guy. Now, they're all intentions are pointing that they're going to get rid of him, but I don't know how you get rid of a guy with that much money left on his contract. So that's the question with Clayton Tune. If you're going to go ahead and move on, is Clayton Tune a rookie, a guy in your long-term plans anyway? Is that somebody that you really want, or is he a guy you thought may play this year, and then you're going to draft another rookie, and like how like Corral was in Carolina, man, we don't need a rookie and then a 1-year guy. So maybe he's available. And then finally, Trey Lance. Trey Lance out of the Cowboys, 23 years old. He is anything is possible. We still know that ceiling may be there. Now, if they only traded for him because he may know the signals, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That's just ridiculous to trade a pick, and you won't trade picks for anything else, but you'll trade him for that. I think getting Trey Lance in, I think he's a good guy that you can kind of go see, hey, man, let's see what he is in practice. Is his ceiling really as high as we think it is? That's something you can look at, right? All of those guys. So those are your backup quarterbacks, but that's pretty much your backup quarterbacks that have any sort of value whatsoever are your backup quarterbacks. That's not a great list. That's not a list where, oh, man, there's so much we can go pick from if we want to be able to go get a guy, if we want to be able to find a guy to replace our quarterback. And if you're Dallas, you're sitting a lot prettier than some of these other teams. You're sitting prettier than some of these teams like the Raiders with Jimmy Garoppolo, who, yeah, you may not have the contract, you may not have the long-term contract, but right now, he's got 7.3 yards in average passing, not great. 6 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. That's a really bad number. 82% passer rating, a 45% QBR. QBR, by the way, is out of 100%. So you can kind of judge it on that scale. Anything under 50, not great. It's basically anything under 50, you're basically, another quarterback who wasn't terrible should be able to fill in your job. So that Jimmy Garoppolo having some problems. Green Bay, I know they're going to try and fight through these problems, but you're going to have to make a decision on paying Jordan Love pretty soon. 42.3% QBR in that one. He's only averaging 55% on passing, 6.7 yards in average. It's not great. Now, he's thrown for 8 touchdowns, but 6 interceptions. Again, let's look at those Dak numbers real quick, just so you have an average. 69% for Dak right now, 69.4. 6.6 yard average. That's the problem, is his average is too short. You want to see him get the ball downfield a little bit more. I think that's more of a coaching issue than a player issue, that they're not getting him the ability to get the ball downfield a little bit more. 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Those numbers also pretty low. The 5 touchdown is for sure. And a 65.5% QBR is what Dak Prescott has. You can look at some of the younger guys. Bryce Young right now, he is just playing really not well. And part of that is the offensive line in Carolina. Part of it is that they don't really have the weapons after trading DJ Moore. He's got a 28.6 QBR, the lowest in the league. So if you want to say Dak is at 65, the lowest in the league right now is Bryce Young at 28.6 for starters. Andy Dalton has a better one too, I believe, than he does. If we want to look over at another guy that you can kind of put in the Russell Wilson category, or the Dak Prescott category, Russell Wilson. He's averaging about 3 percentage points less on the average, but he is averaging about a yard more a pass, 11 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So you say that number looks really good. He has a 106.1 passer rating, but his QBR is 45.2 because they played a bunch of bad defenses too. And so his is a weird number that he's putting up pretty good numbers, but they're not getting the wins, and his win over replacement, which they don't really have that number. That's a baseball number, but that one is bad. And then the number of the quarterback who is most hated right now on a fan base who thinks they should have the next big guy, Mac Jones, 40.2 QBR right now, 5 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Those guys are looking for quarterbacks, not the Cowboys, who have $60 million in dead cap if you get rid of Dak. And that's just next season, not the $90 million that it is right now. You can't get rid of, right? So that's just a couple numbers to put you in mind of if you want to get rid of Dak Prescott, you have to start looking at that backup quarterback list, or you can look at the Cardinals. And now you can't really afford to do this. You'd have to have the Cardinals eat some of this money for you for a couple years, and then you buy into it at the end. But you go look at Kyler Murray. But you want to look at Kyler Murray's numbers. His 11 games last season, his worst season by far, the third season. He had a 53.6 QBR, 87.2 passer rating. He had 14 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. That's pretty good. But he was only averaging 6.1 yards per average on the pass. And when you're not throwing 70% completion percentage and you're only throwing the ball 6 yards, 7 yards downfield, you're throwing down a lot of checkdowns. That's not a number most people are going to get excited about. So you have to fix that. So when you say that, so on the text line, if you have one of those guys, you say, this guy would win more games than Dak Prescott. I don't know if any of those guys would. I don't think those guys would win more games than Dak Prescott because we see his numbers. His numbers aren't terrible. You watch the game film, most of his passes are not terrible. He just doesn't have guys getting open. He has players like Brandon Cooks who doesn't seem involved in this offense. You have guys like CeeDee Lamb who's getting frustrated because he's not able to get schemed open by Mike McCarthy. This is not a Dak Prescott problem. This is a Mike McCarthy problem right now. We talked earlier, one of our texters asked about Brock Purdy. And what do you think is the thing with Brock Purdy? And if you look at that coaching tree, we said Tua, C.J. Stroud, and you put 2 Aaron Rodgers seasons in there from the coaches that left, and we're all part of that kind of Kyle Shanahan brain trust that was working out. And then Bobby Slowick going now, who is coached under Kyle Shanahan. That's how you coach a quarterback, not putting him in a position to win, which is what the Cowboys have been doing with Dak Prescott. So if you want to say they have the players to win, I think they have the players to be a 12-win team because, again, how many of those backup quarterbacks, how many of those starting quarterbacks that we listed, Bryce Young, Russell Wilson, Mac Jones, Jordan Love, Jimmy Garoppolo, Kyler Murray, are 12-win quarterbacks? Andy Dalton, Tyrod Taylor, Teddy Bridgewater, Jacoby Brissett, Jameis Winston, Taylor Heineke, Sam Darnold. Right now, how many of them are 12-win quarterbacks? Gardner Minshew, Drew Lock, are they 12-win quarterbacks? No one knows. Tyler Huntley, Dorian Thompson Robinson, Clayton Tune, Trey Lance, any of those? Are they 12-win quarterbacks? I don't know if they are because I don't know if they do the small things good enough in a system that is not designed to help them, in a system that is actively against the quarterback, a system that you need to be able to call audibles and you need to rebuild the plays because your coach is not a good play caller. Your coach is not helping you out. Your coach is telling you, this worked when I did it and won a Super Bowl a decade ago. And you know what? The league's advanced and everybody knows what we're going to do now, but I'm going to still throw that out there. And we're not going to fix the little things in the game plan because I'm not a details guy. Mike McCarthy's not a details guy. He's a big picture guy and he's calling plays, and you need detail guys when you're calling plays and when you're working on plays. You need detail guys, and that's the problem. Is they have a quarterback who's not a details guy. He is a leader. He's not a details guy. And you have a coach who's not a details guy. And someone on that Cowboys team needs to be a details guy. And I don't know if they have them right now on that offense. So you have to ask Jerry. Well, Jerry, if I look and there's no one that's going to find the details, I don't know if you're going to improve. What, Jerry, if I see something, what should I?
When something tells you what it is, don't try to dream that it's something else.
That's the problem. I know what this Cowboys team is. They're a 12-win team. They're going to make the playoffs this year. I believe they'll make the playoffs. I believe they'll bounce back and have some good games this year. And they'll trounce some bad teams, and they'll look really good again. And everybody will get on the hype again. Because a lot of these other quarterbacks we named, they're in the league. They're not they're not 12-win teams. So you can win 12 games. How many of those can win playoff games? And that's where the list changes. That's where people start to believe in a Heineke or a Gardner Minshew. That's where they start to believe in some of these other guys because they think, oh, no, his ceiling's way higher than Dak's ceiling. In the playoffs, we need ceiling. So if you're the Cowboys, you got to start looking. Just looking. You're not going out. You don't need to put any offers out. You got Trey Lance. You already got your backup. You already got your work wife. You got your backup ready to go. You need to start looking if you're the Cowboys. That's all. Start looking at other quarterbacks. Start looking because you're not going to get one in the draft most likely. Not the way Jerry Jones drafts either. So I think you need to go look at some of these other teams right now. Start just getting opinions out there. That's just what I think. Let me know what you think. 512-447-3776. We'll come back. Jerry Hamilton was on Ian Rod B this morning on Hook 'em Up, talking about some recruiting news. Good stuff there. Jerry Hamilton, always a great listen. We'll play you that when we come back. And more of your text. 512-447-3776. Right here on the Sports Complex on the Horn 1019 AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Back in the Sports Complex here on the Horn. Shout out to the texter who recommended The Sacred Souls playing ACL Fest. We're playing ACL Fest artists all week long. Playing some different music I had not heard before. Thanks for turning me on to these guys. I'll have to check them out some more after the show. A little Astros Twins update for you. Twins put up one in the bottom of the first. In the top of the second, Astros respond. Uncle Michael Brantley, puts one out. So 2 solo shots so far. Really good double play by Jeremy Pena in there as well to make the score 1-1 as it goes to the bottom of the second inning. Going to be a long game, but if the Astros can get the win, then that would mean that we get the series that we want to see in the Astros-Rangers Texas series. Screw the rest of the country, everybody. It's Texas time. And get the ALCS. The matchup that since the Astros have joined the American League, you kind of wanted, but the Rangers kind of piddled out in 2016 was their last big run, and then the Astros have been dominant since 2017. This would be the Astros, if they're able to get there, the 7th straight ALCS for the Astros. The record, I believe, is 8 with the Braves for the NLCS. They would have the ALCS record. I believe they already do. But I believe 8 straight NLCSs would be the championship series for the league series. Would be the Braves back in that 90s run when the Astros were playing against them. And they were just dominant and had that rotation and bullpen and everything going for them. So that is but yes, it is tied 1-1 as we go into the bottom of the second. Jose Urquidy on the mound for the Astros. Thanks for everybody jumping on the text line, asking you about backup quarterbacks. A couple more. Chance says Nick Mullins. I'm not putting him up there I think we kind of know what he is. You know, he is who we think he is. I don't think we got too much there. Fitzmagic is retired. I know my man Jacob texted me about Nick Foles. He's retired. From all we've heard, that he's back here in Austin and retired and happy and okay with not going back out there. A lot of these guys, you know, it's as much as it takes a lot for a quarterback to learn everything and to get out there. And then especially if they're going to try and, have you do scout team stuff too, and wherever they want to use you. And, you got to be ready to go in there and get beat up. If you're going against a team that is already beat up, that they don't necessarily protect the quarterback. You're going to have to go take some hits. You don't want to get hurt again. They've rehabbed. And once you get to a certain point, that's the question. Is another $2 million worth it? Now, for all of us, of course it is. I'd sit back there and break my leg for $2 million at this point in my life. Sure, and then be able to walk away and go, you know what? I started a game in the NFL, or I came in off the bench, and then they had to cut away and go back to the studio. That's how bad. My foot was on one side of the field at one hash mark, and my knee was on the other. It was not good. But I don't know. I'm a kind of big guy, so I don't know if they'd be able to drag me that far, but we'll see. They're much bigger. We'll go into that. I do want to play. Keep the text coming in, 512-447-3776. I want to play you some from Hook 'em Up with Ian Robbie, weekday morning, 6 to 11 right here on the Horn. They had Jerry Hamilton on the show today. Great insider in Texas recruiting. Always great to check back in with Jerry Hamilton. So I want to play you him on the show this morning so you can get a little more viewpoint after a Texas game, after a Texas loss that a lot of recruits were at. It was a home game for Texas. How Texas recruiting is looking for the Longhorns.
Hey, look who's on the line. One of our favorites. It's Jerry Hamilton, senior recruiting and analyst at On3 Sports inside Texas, and doing great stuff at that website and on their On Texas football channel. He is Jerry Hamilton. G-Man, how are you?
I'm great, man. How are you guys? We're Rod. We're one win away from a Rangers Astros ALCS. That'll be epic in the state of Texas if it happens.
Damn right, baby. Some of those games are gonna feel like a little bit of Texas OU, man. You're gonna have the rivalry. You're gonna have that.
I'm glad you went there. Because I totally agree.
Nice.
Oh, they'll be. It's what when the Astros moved from the National League to the American League, it was kind of always the hope that could happen to build this rivalry, and now we're a win away. Let's not jinx our Astros, Jerry. They got to get this victory tonight or in Game 5, but it feels pretty good right now after the big wins yesterday. And yes, that will be some kind of couple of weeks of baseball and the rivalry on top of it. Jerry, before we talk recruiting side of it, what was just your take on the Texas OU game? It was a thriller. It was a hell of a football game. You were there in the building. What was your read?
I'll tell you what, it was an unbelievable college football atmosphere. I mean, look, I left the hotel at I think 45 Saturday morning. And I said, it's 6:45. I'll be down there by 7, where I was staying 15 minutes. I've never seen that much traffic when I hit I-30 going to the Cotton Bowl. You're a couple exits away when you hit I-30. Never seen that much traffic at 7 a.m. for Texas OU.
Wow.
So I said, magnitude just went up a little bit. Then I got into the stadium. My son and I had never been before, and I think he was a little bit in shock because I kind of prepared him because he was at Texas-Bama game with me last year, not this year, last year. And just with college game day there, but there were more people there. I saw more 7 a.m. corn dog consumption than my other 3 or 4 years when I've been there for the 11 a.m. kick. I mean, it was amazing how many people were there. The college game day set was incredible, how many people were just hanging around there. When the Texas bus came in, how many people were there. You could just tell it was a big-time game, different than some others. And then, during the game, the first 6 minutes of game action were absolutely wild for the fans. I mean, fans looked exhausted after 6 minutes. And I was like, dang, we've got 54 minutes to go here. But from a recruiting standpoint, guys, and I said this last night with Rod, and I said it with Justin Wells, and I'm not just saying this because Texas lost. I'm not one of those people, man. In fact, some Texas fans don't like me because I call it like I see it. There was no loser from a recruiting standpoint in this game. I'd be saying the same thing if Oklahoma had lost the game. It was too great of an atmosphere. It was too great of a game and too great of a setting in both teams. I mean, 34-30 goes down to the last minute. Both teams ranked in the top 10, but still, and should be the rest of the way unless they collapse. It was an unbelievable game for recruiting for both programs. Now, Texas needs to go handle their business the rest of the way, but with the young 2025 kids in the stands, 2026 kids in the stands, there was no recruiting loser coming out of that game. That I'll tell you.
Yeah, Jerry, and what particular specific players that came to that game do you think right now are leaning to Texas, potentially in your mind?
Yeah, the interesting thing is Texas extended an offer to a safety named Xavier Filsame, 5-star out of McKinney, who's originally from Orlando. He's committed to Florida. They extended an offer to him Saturday on the way down to the game.
Wow.
Inside Texas, I actually broke that news. He was coming to the game Friday and then broke the offer news Saturday. But I'm not saying he's leaning to Texas, but he's the new name for Texas fans in 2024 because most of that hay's in the barn. But that's a new name for Texas fans. But Georgia's also making a strong push there, which does tell you he's really good because Will Muschamp doesn't exactly recruit stiffs at safety. Look, that kid's really talented. Some of the 2025s, the linebacker at McKinney High, Riley Pettijohn, ranked top 65 in the country. I think he's a slight Texas lean over Florida State, Florida, LSU, but that one's a long way to go. Michael Fasusi, the top offensive tackle in the state in the junior class and maybe the top pass protector in the country in the junior class. That's a Texas-OU battle. I think Texas was out in front of OU headed into the season. I think those are neck and neck. That's the one battle in state. Kyle Flood and Biedenbaugh, man, and Venables and Sark, they're going at it for this kid because he's special in pass protection, or he could be. That was one. The running back from New Orleans, Harlem Berry's interesting one that was there, guys. I was by the school in August. He is very fast. Rod's watched him, very elusive. I'm not comparing him to Jamal Charles because I'm not sure. You play private school ball in New Orleans. I'm not going to compare you to Jamal Charles at Port Arthur Memorial, who every Friday night everybody was gunning for him and he had to put it on the board. The Harlem Berry has some of the same skill set, let's say. But Harlem being there was interesting because that's a Texas, Florida, LSU. And LSU's been the childhood favorite for him. But we found in recruiting nowadays that doesn't mean you're going there, but they have to first, and the doors cracked open more for them throughout the process. His uncle is Jabbar Jaluk, the running back coach at Florida. But who knows what's going to happen at Florida, man. They got a huge game this weekend, else the natives are definitely going to get restless already, especially when you look at Florida's 24 schedule. But Shashard Choice, Texas is going to be in that final group for anybody he recruits at running back. Harlem Berry being there was big.
Harlem Berry. How about this, Rod, on our Rod and Jerry Hamilton with us from Inside Texas. On our text line, we got a text says, I have a 5-star cousin, safety, who may be coming to the Horns. Don't know why it's taken so long to recruit him. He committed to Florida, but it's about to change. That's got to be Xavier Filsame, right? I mean, now we're getting text from his cousin saying it's about to change. That could be a crazy text out of nowhere, but just to pass along that information.
Hey, that's a great. Hey, there's Aaron, but breaking news, baby.
See, come on, man.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing with him for Texas fans to know, and I put a story up kind of to get to know his recruitment Sunday. His dad lives in McKinney. His mom lives in Orlando. Mom works in Orlando. He moved to McKinney in 6th grade. That's why early in this recruitment, everybody just thought he's going to head to Florida. He's going to Florida because his mom's there. He's from there. And look, this is what happens when programs don't win. You know, and that negative talk starts. I mean, Florida has a huge game this weekend. The question is, with Georgia making that, even though Georgia's making that run, somebody close to that recruitment told me Sunday they think he's going to play college ball in Texas or Florida. And the fact that he mentioned Texas or Florida, it's telling to me that Texas is very much in it. And I don't think this is an offer that Texas makes unless they know the kid has serious interest.
And safety position is of need. We know Derek Williams is there, but they're going to need some guys back at that end that can shore it up. Hey, Jerry, the basketball side, there's apparently a big basketball commitment. We know it's coming down to Texas and Baylor. Trey Johnson, what's the latest there?
Yeah, the question with Trey is he going to sign early, commit and sign in the fall, or is he going to wait until the spring? That's kind of up in the air. The number 4 player in the country, 6'5", tremendous scorer, shooting guard. He's a guy that should average 17, 18 in the NBA one day. I mean, that's just the level of player he is. The question with him is going to be the NBA G League Ignite. He left Lake Highlands after they won the state title. He's at Link Prep in Missouri, which he should go to because you can make NIL money. You can't in Texas as a high school player. You can't in some other states. So he should make that move. He's not doing anything wrong by leaving Lake Highlands. He got him a state championship. His dad was on staff there. But the question there is, when is he gonna make his decision, and when is he gonna sign? And then you have to hold off the G League. I mean, I believe Ron Holland got around $800,000 from G League Ignite. That's a lot of money to turn down. I don't care about NIL. That's a lot when you get to that level. So Texas or Baylor, whoever wins out there, and I think Texas has had a lot of confidence in this recruitment. Baylor got the last official visit. Obviously, his father began his college career at Baylor there. That's when Rodney Terry and Richard Johnson, the father, they've had a relationship since that time because Rodney Terry was on staff as an assistant at Baylor at that time. So there's a long-standing relationship with Rodney Terry and Johnson family. So Texas knows exactly where things are at in this recruitment. Again, though, the question is, when is he going to make his decision and when is he going to sign? And I think we'll know that in the next couple of weeks.
Hey, Jerry, everybody always is trying to keep up with where you're going. It's a bye week for Texas. You got any special plans to get out and see any recruits or prospects?
Yeah, I'm going to get out a little bit tomorrow. Friday, I'm actually going to go to Willis to watch Willis play. And that sounds weird because they have a 5-star quarterback committed to Florida, DJ Lagway. I'm not going for that. Willis has some younger kids. They have a 2026 kid, which 2026 doesn't get me out very often. A kid named Jermaine Bishop that the high school coach at Willis is saying if there's a better 2026 defensive back in the country, he would like to see him. That's how good this kid is. Texas has offered him. So I'm going to hit some schools in the North Houston area on Friday. I'm going to hit a few schools on Thursday as well. But I'm staying in the Houston area this week. By the way, I need to mention, though, Texas extended an offer last night after we got off the air, Rod. Alex Foster, defensive lineman out of Greenville, Mississippi, committed to Baylor.
Wow.
Texas offered him. He's 6'5", 270, really athletic kid from smaller school out in Greenville, almost on that Arkansas border. But obviously Bo Davis is from there. But Texas extended an offer to a new 2024 D lineman last night, and I expect Ole Miss to offer him soon. He's a kid that was 6'5", 230, 6'4", 235 as a junior. He's now 6'5", 270. They even listed at 275. Really high upside athlete at defensive line.
Wow. There it is. That's why he's the best. Jerry Hamilton, senior recruiting analyst inside Texas on 3 Sports. Thank you, G. Safe travels through the weekend, my friend. We'll talk next week.
Thanks, Jerry.
You got it, man. Thank you, guys.
There you go. He's the best.
He is awesome.
He'll be on the recruiting show. Sark and his coaches will be all over the high schools. You can bet starting tomorrow night all over. Making the visits with all the staff with the bye week here. Big time right there.
Good stuff there from Jerry Hamilton. Always a good listen. You can hear him. He joins Aaron Hogan and Rob Babers on Hook 'em Up. Weekday morning, 6 to 11. Anytime you get to hear Jerry Hamilton, some good stuff there. Some good stuff about Trey Johnson. Big recruit there for Texas basketball. Can't wait for basketball season to start for Texas. It's going to be a little different this season for me, not getting to be able to sit courtside, see all the players up close. But, I got my insider still down there. I know. I will be able to figure it out. We'll get you the best coverage of Texas basketball as well. We'll get you all that. We're going to take one more break before we get out of here. If you guys got any more texts for me, 512-447-3776. You got any more texts? Still 1-1 in the Astros Twins game. Game 4 there. If Astros win, it is a Texas ALCS. We'll take one more break. Come back right here on the Sports Complex in the Horn, 101.9 AM 1260, the Horn app, and at hornfm.com. Wrapping things up here on the Sports Complex. We always go a little bit long. One day I'll get better at this timing. One day. Still tied 1-1 as we are in the bottom of the third in the Astros and Twins game. Deciding if I am going to go out and watch the rest of this game somewhere, if that's a jinx. Who knows? Appreciate everybody on the text line. Make the show so much more fun when you guys join in. And the kind word, Chief Engineer Chan, I appreciate it. I will have a good evening. I hope you guys do as well. For this man who says the Marine Corps did more damage for less, I'd take 100 NFL hits for a few mil at this point. Thanks for your service. And yeah, you probably did a lot more damage to your body than I did. So thank you for what you did. And we're going to get out of here. We'll be back tomorrow, hopefully talking about a big Texas ALCS. We come back here tomorrow. Until then, be kind, be safe, keep your underwear clean, and we'll see you back here tomorrow, 5 o'clock, right here on the Sports Complex on the Horn.